we have some few minutes to have questions, comments, suggestions from you. Because you clearly see it is very much about one person, it's about a particular place, it's about certain people, but there's also a particular motive here, and Thalasani could expand on that. What do you plan to achieve from it? There will be questions, but what exactly do you want to do with this movie?
What you want to achieve is what to do later after this documentary. Basically, I'm not political activist, I'm not necessarily going to talk with activist filmmaker. So what I want to achieve after this documentary, what will happen. So it's yeah. What I would say is simple. I mean, this film is done as documentary, it's an activist film, and we need to build the campaign. And yes, India can keep the Mukul Romanian physical, but and failed to stop the ideology. You know, whatever we see is this ideology of independence. And well, yes. So it's we need to. I mean, anybody who's interested, we need more new people, basically, rather than new youth or more non-initiated funding this campaign. And we can set up, in the next couple of weeks, some meetings to decide what we can do. That's what's in my mind. But we are more open to decide. Yeah.
Okay, could we start? I mean, anyone have a question or suggestion? So it's not okay. Anyone has a question or suggestion? Yes.
I would like to thank the makers of the film for a powerful film introducing new audiences to a character who I found very moving as a Palestinian. I came with some other Palestinians here. The parallel of attempting to punish the family, punish the movement behind this character is something very. There's a lot of parallels in the Palestinian case. I think for that reason it's very obvious that it was a political act to do this. And in Israel they have a whole graveyard called the Graveyard of Numbers, where it's filled with Arab and Palestinian prisoners. And it is clearly something punitive. So in that sense, the legal questions that were raised by the gentleman at the end, they're relevant in our struggle, but at the end it's a political decision I see. The three comments I had that I wanted to raise. One relates to the first comment that Dr. Anand raised, that was raised by others, relating to the question of liberation of the people and not focusing on the territory. And I wonder why this parallel we want to raise this, why raise this division? Because the liberation of the land is just as important as the liberation of the people. And in the case of Palestine, there's a deliberate attempt to change the demography of Palestine. And in Kashmir, I believe they're doing the same thing. So I think there's dangers of doing this. So I'd just like to hear some comments on that one point. The second effort, because this is a political issue and not a legalistic question, what has been, it's curious, and to be honest, in the Palestinian case, legalistic efforts to try and convince Israel to return bodies or not bodies have not been very successful. Efforts that have taken place outside of legal measures have, to some extent, been successful. And we're talking about kidnappings or exchange of prisoners. Efforts like this, can you tell us a little bit of the history of other efforts, ones that emerge from popular movements or struggles, including potentially military struggles? I'm not scared to say these things. I want to hear the history of it because I don't know it. And then the third thing, when you have a film like this, and when you're trying to raise an issue like this to a new audience, which includes some people who don't know so much about Kashmir, I think it would be beneficial to try and direct the audience straight into some form of campaign, and put some information at the end of the film, have a petition sign up here where we can all sign up, or hand out information on how we can do this. Try and, if there's a way that you can have a more an effort so that we can directly take the movie into activism.
Thank you. In fact, thanks a lot for these comments. I mean, the three kinds of questions, would like to start. But one is to do with, if you talk more of people, not territory, there's a danger that you may ignore the fact that the struggle involves territory. The second is about, if you focus a lot on legalistic aspect, you forget that it's very much a political struggle. Is that what's going to happen? And in terms of, could you anyone tell more about the history of other efforts? Of course, there are other efforts, include militant efforts, violent, non-violent, in some of history. And then the third is, of course, more specific. I mean, it may be more effective, specific to people who don't know much about the country, that there's a specific, there's a movie, here's a petition, here's a website, please go and do this. So, would you like to start?
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think, thank you very much. I was supporting Dr. Anand on two counts. You are very right that people and territory cannot be separated. And United Nations has accepted it that Kashmir is a sovereign territory. The dispute between India and Pakistan has remained. At this point, the United Nations has accepted the sovereignty of the government of Jammu and Kashmir based in Srinagar. But at the same time, they have also accepted the AJK government to be sovereign as well, with the difference that they will have official military support. This government will not have military official support, they will have civil defense kind of a thing. So, while at times we say it's not a territorial issue, because with the West people get confused, maybe it's a territorial dispute between India and Pakistan. We say no, it is a dispute of principle of equality and that leads into self-determination. So self-determination cannot be in the vacuum. It is of the people within a certain habitat. So habitat is embedded in the very fact when we say that I am sovereign like an Indian, I am as sovereign like a Pakistani. And my sovereignty is very well accepted by both India and Pakistan at the United Nations. But on the ground they have a different practice. So I agree with that. But the other thing is that I met Hanan Ashrafi in Geneva and we asked her one question, that is there any advice for us? She said, you Kashmiris do not have a symbol. So you have a symbol, Yasar. We don't have a symbol. So we started from 1846 and more precisely from 1931. But today, India and Pakistan did not allow us to build a symbol, to structure. We don't have a symbol. Any symbol that we had after 5-10 years, we did demolish that symbol. So symbol is that we are lacking. And I agree with you that it is time now to surge back and to be, I think I should also try or use this opportunity to let you know that when we met Yasir Arafat here in London, it was a closed door meeting, 3-4 Kashmiris where I did ask him a question, that Chairman, when I go out from this room, what is your advice for me for Kashmir? So he said, Nazir, make sure you save and conserve your youth. We were confused. I said, why? Another Kashmiri was with me, was Dr. Blake, and we had a Pakistani diplomat in a hotel. He said, I'm just now coming from Delhi. My advice to you is, if you could save your youth, I think if we had acted on his advice, we would still have saved 100,000 youth. And we could have used that as a military force at a later stage. But first we should ask the United Nations that non-implementation of UN resolutions does embed a military action against India. When they refuse, then this 100,000 would have been put into action.
Anyone else want to say anything?
Well, there's a poster on the back table. There's website information, but it's in the process. What is proposed is a transmedia kind of website. People can actually upload more pictures with messages or text video by all means, but that's in the process. And also I'm doing screening in a couple of towns in England in the next 1 week. But we will keep on, and then we have some plans, but it's after the summer.
differences. So the reason why I said we should not obsess about territoriality, but focus on people is because both states, India and Pakistan, obsess about territoriality. So the difference between, let's say, the Palestinian case and Kashmiri case is that the two states involved both claiming the territory. So in a sense, by saying that it's about people, we trying to remind the state that your principles or your claims are secondary to the rights of self-determination of Kashmiri people. That's why it's and people not territory. It was not meant to say, oh, territory is not important. People need territory to survive. Second is not legalistic and political. I mean, you're right. I mean, the struggle, I mean, the question is, his mother had been trying since 1984. There's someone called Karina Amgar, some people know here. Her son was gazetted by Indian state in 1990. She has been going through Indian legal process one by one since 1990 and nothing has happened. So even people give up on legality, but the problem is, in such situations, people have no option, so they don't have the luxury to completely give up on legality. So I do strongly believe that a complex struggle is one, you struggle within the legal system of the occupiers, but you also challenge the occupation. Because in the end, that's the best you can try to experiment everything. And I think Kashmir having tried that, they have used violence also for purpose of liberation. It did not work, clearly, because you have two very powerful states involved, one more ruthless than the other in certain cases. But Kashmir have tried everything, and where I derive hope is something like this movie, for instance. You did not have that a lot in 1990s, for instance, when violence was being used to struggle against Indian state. There's a lot of creativity, not only amongst young people, but also not too young. I'm sure some people are not that young, including her. There's a lot of creativity involved, there's a lot of desire to challenge the states, but not to challenge state first, but challenge narratives of the state. And I do feel greater move, and I hope that there might be more Pakistanis, more Indians who start realizing what the state has been doing in different occupied territories, right, and occupied places. That's all. But in terms of, sorry, thank you.
Just a couple of things. I mean, I grew listening to that every time I listen to him, I learn something new. And today was no different. But one of the things that really encourages me is, yes, legal channels. But from what you witness, if you look at actually Indian action in Kashmir, the rape is used as a weapon of war. And the Indian army is immune from persecution. And that is understood parliamentary battles. And we really are fair to educate civilized world of that. Secondly, yes, what was the massively, even about reading what John Lucas's report of the mass grave, and then while they are being discovered, even in Israel, and then possibly another place, but nobody's near it. And then the other thing is, like, what we came missing people. I don't know, we don't know if they're alive. So yes, we have to really, and if you look at geographically and the bureaucratic structure, somebody from Baramulla, 100% is coming from and to able to go to them is a task in itself. So I don't know what the answer is, but I think this legal and whatever I think yes, it's like that is about the law and I think we as a Kashmiri are not very perfect. We as a Kashmiri are fear to mobilize and educate and probably have consistent movement. And I think this way would be to mobilize and legalize some of that what we're missing. And there was another presentation we are made by the Parliament, and this is
there's a question. We'll take a couple of questions and then come back. This is more about comments. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. And thank you for a fascinating presentation and documentary. As a documentary filmmaker myself, who's also interested in human rights, but I just want to, the point has been well made that there are in fact there are three countries occupying Kashmir. China also has an interest. Perhaps China is Pakistan's silent partner. Well, but China's interested there. In other words, I think it's a good case against violence in that situation because the powers in control of the sovereignty of Kashmir, I think, have limited resources to crush any opposition. So the case for a human rights-based approach is commendable, really. And I think the point was well made by Professor Anand that it does show the cruelty of the occupying power, that not only they hang the nature in question, but then they're free to take this body back. In international terms, it is unusual enough, really, especially for a democracy like India, but we're aware of how charged the situation in Pakistan, or sorry, in India. But the question I really want to ask is, what do the people of Kashmir want? In broad terms, you just would be interested in that because the whole Kashmiri issue in this part of the world is never presented in those terms. It's really kind of a victim of terrorism in inverted commas, and is addressed by India as part of the quotation marks war on terror and quotation marks. So could you just say a little about what do the people of Kashmir want? What kind of self-determination are they looking for? Is there a real consensus? Just to give us a little bit more background about the politics underlying this struggle for self-determination. Thanks very much.
Thank you. In fact, who wants to start? So, there's a question of poverty, and what do Kashmiris want?
Yes. What we want, we don't ask that. The question is very simple that we are at the moment distributed under 3 administrations. We are under 5 governments, 5 constitutions, and 2 armies. We are the only people around the globe. We have to be subservient to 5 governments and 5 constitutions. Indian government and Pakistani government, 2, Srinagar government 3, Muzaffarabad 4, Gilgit 5 governments. So, first and foremost thing is the unification of the state, that this division and control of India and Pakistan was temporary at that point because there was an upheaval in 1947-48. But now things have settled down. Srinagar does not threaten Muzaffarabad. Muzaffarabad and Srinagar, they don't threaten Gilgit. So we have 4 Kashmiris. One living at Srinagar, one at Muzaffarabad, one at Gilgit, and one abroad, the diaspora. So we 4 Kashmiris want to be one. We want that the state should return to its original unified status, where a Hindu, a Sikh, a Christian, a Jew, the other people there used to live. And India and Pakistan have undertaken that responsibility. Because the question at the UN is very simple. India has gone to UN to have adjudication on 3 points. 1, would Kashmiris wish to pull out from the temporary accession to India and accede to Pakistan? Or would they like to be an independent state and seek membership of the United Nations? So this is the original application of India at the UN. Very simple application. But the independence and membership of UN disappeared somewhere. But that is not the fault of India or Pakistan, it's our fault. Because we did not keep an eye on what was happening at the UN from 1st of January to date. And second thing, that Kashmiris sleep a lot. Pakistan did not raise Kashmir at the UN. From November 65 to August 1996, for 31 years, Kashmir was never discussed at the UN. So, if you do not discuss an issue for 31 years, the other party has 31 years at her disposal to do whatever they like. So Kashmiris don't want anything else. They want India and Pakistan to vacate and to leave them to their own arrangement. At that point, India did say that the United Nations does not have an army to defend Kashmir. But now, the UN has its own army as well. Peacekeepers are around the world, and they are in Kashmir as well. So, Kashmir, in simple fact, want that the state should be unified. The people should start living the way they lived on 14th of August 1947. That's our demand. And that is the demand that Pakistan has accepted as well. Because India came to Kashmir on 27th October 1947. But Pakistan went to Kashmir in August 1947, 2 months before. We have a standstill agreement with government of Pakistan, and government of Pakistan used to run post and telegraph for us and transport. So these two departments were handed over by the Kashmir government to Pakistan. So if Pakistan wants, it can go to war with India as well. That we were the first to have a diplomatic relationship with the government of Kashmir since August 12, 14, and you came in October. So it is that we have not been able to agitate I do agree with somebody who said that, but at the end of the day, Kashmir case is a legal case. Because you can create problems for the President of India through Supreme Court of India for the return of the remains of Mahmoud. Political pressure would have worked if Kashmiris had asked National Conference, PDP and Congress during these elections, what is your position on the return of Mahmoud's remains? Nobody raised this question.
These are political parties in India.
But they did ask one question. A member of parliament from Kashmir, he said to Congress, I will vote for you. Would you apologize to the people of Kashmir for hanging Afzal Guru? 4 members of the Indian National Congress tendered an apology that yes, it was a mistake to hang Guru. But if those people had asked the other parties as well, we will vote for you. But what would be your input in helping us or helping the mother of Mahmoud Bhat, the great lady, in bringing the remains back? So very simple. Help us to get rid of 5 governments and 5 constitutions and 2 armies. Thank you.
Shopper, you want to say anything? What does Kashmir want? I will might take the other.
मैं शायद आज के इस मुकाबले में उस तरह से पार्टिसिपेट नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ।
Perhaps I'm not able to fully participate in a different way.
लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ कि इंतहाई इख्तिसार के साथ और डॉक्टर वज़ीर गिलानी साहब की जो गुफ्तगू है उससे एग्री करते हुए
I can perhaps in a summary agree with Dr. Gilani's analysis.
हम भारत और पाकिस्तान समेत सारी दुनिया से मुतालबा करते हैं।
We are requesting of India, Pakistan and of other nations around the world
कि आप हमसे हमारे फ्यूचर के मुतालिक राय के इजहार का हमें मौका तो दें।
We're asking them to give us opportunity to express our views.
ये बहुत सिंपल है।
It's a simple issue.
कि हम बुनियादी तौर पे भारत और पाकिस्तान को ये कहते हैं कि हमारा नेशनल राइट ऑफ सेल्फ डिटरमिनेशन उसको आप एक्सेप्ट करें और हमें अपने पॉलिटिकल फ्यूचर को मुतय्यन करने का मौका दें।
We're asking India and Pakistan a very simple question to give us our voice to determine our future, and it's solely for us to determine our future, which is our birthright.
If there's 2 ways in this campaign, one is yes, legal process, but next is we have political pressure from the outside. That's the only way to pressurize India to decide that kind of petition. We already have a petition in 85 for money, and that's why we need to do something outside India. So that's our crucial role, the West or from the diaspora, from England to America to everywhere with Kashmir. So that's
they have been neglected for decades. This is not about what happened in 1947, only about what UN has said or have been said. It is about what people of Kashmir have been suffering and also what it has come to today. According to him, I personally don't believe in UN or their resolutions. They have failed worldwide in other conflicts also. Someone mentioned UN is in Kashmir also, but you can see what they are doing here. Caged in a house in the city, receiving memorandum from people, this is UN's position, through small holes in their iron door. It is itself in a way under detention. The UN is under detention in Kashmir. Kashmiris in simple terms want to be given the right to live with dignity in a free land. This is all rhetoric now as new generation is considered what politicians did and when. Just yesterday a boy was political and today he are told entire Kashmir is under curfew. That is the reality today. The reality on the ground is people are living in an open prison and this large population has to be freed.
There is, we have agreements against the people of Kashmir without having a reliable understanding of United Nations. Because some Muslims say it's a Satan's house. Because they check it out altogether. But this is the only place where countries meet. But I will just make a very pointed response to Farah on one thing. Kashmiris have been handing over memoranda or memorandums to UNMOGIP, United Nations Military Observer Group for India and Pakistan. They have nothing to do with your memorandums. Out of courtesy, they accept your paper. They are there to report to the Situation Center in New York only the violation of the ceasefire. Because United Nations, it's a very, very strict principle. If you have a rapporteur on religious intolerance, he or she will never speak about a mosque, about disappearance or custodial care. If there's a rapporteur on involuntary disappearances, he will never say a word about religious intolerance. So all the Kashmiris in Muzaffarabad, I think he must be hearing, in Srinagar or in Gilgit, who hand over these memorandums to UN, they are never rooted, they are just taken out of courtesy, because they don't want their windows to be broken. So they take it, but they do not have, the discipline would not allow them to take any action on that. So when you say that we do not believe in United Nations, then the very recent case is Croatia versus Serbia. Croatia has won the case against Serbia for genocide. So this is the only forum now left. And those people who distract Kashmiris from United Nations, because it has given us legitimacy. Otherwise, we have no case. That's to you, ask you, sir. You did ask what Kashmiris are. Kashmiris have never asked for self-determination. It crystallized at the United Nations. And the UN says, the only forum has said that Kashmiris are people with a legend, with a song and with a story. This is our definition. So we should not get disappointed from United Nations. It is a forum. You can use it. If you have not used it, I think send him an email and tell him that has any Kashmiri so far in his personal capacity or any institution in Kashmir taken up the Kashmir case other than how India or Pakistan are defending each other at the UN. We have never gone to UN. The only person who has addressed the UN was Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah. And I would request you, most of you, to go through his speech. He has addressed the UN as my country. He didn't address it as India. Throughout his address, he may have committed many mistakes, but he has addressed the United Nations, people of my country. He has said, I have been listening to distinguished representatives of Pakistan and India, but I believe that I am the only person immediately concerned. So he did differentiate himself.
In fact, before we have to very quick question or quick comment, but quick ones, and we'll take them and we'll wind up it. Right? So we start with the she gets we take.
Just a quick comment about what you said about how Pakistan doesn't go when it came about Mr. Butt remains. I think in theory, that's the case. Realistically, we very important to acknowledge all occupying countries in the region. So obviously this documentary was about India occupied Kashmir, but obviously there are few countries involved, so that's very important to acknowledge.
Okay, thank you. There, two at the back.
Hi, my name is Sophie. I'm from the campaign. We'd like to get involved with this campaign. But I was just going to say, like, the youth in the UK, like the diaspora, you say they're playing for a role, but they don't really identify as Kashmiri. Like, that's a big problem that I've been coming across with, like, getting people involved. And it's more like royalty, like, it's more people that actually themselves don't really, like, know who they are, like, there's a real, like, knowledge. So I was going to say, like, what do you think is more important for the diaspora to do? Like, is it educating hiring people about Kashmir, or is it like really, because then there's a criticism of all those organisations that have been around decades that they only talk to like their own group of legislation and they don't engage with the outside community in the UK. So what's more important to do? And about this campaign, I was going to ask, like, is there anything to get to return back to Kashmir, or is it more about promoting this ideology to people? Also, like, what you were saying about the UN and like how memorandums are really taken effectively, I think that comes back to the education method of the community. So, what is it that we should be doing if we go to the UK? What should we be doing with the memorandums that are sent? Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. And there was one speaker here.
I wanted to ask if there have been any cases of enforced disappearance of Kashmiri women, and if there are any disappearance of Kashmiri women, where are these accounts? Where can we find their accounts? Because they don't seem to get highlighted. And if there have been no cases or less cases of enforced disappearance of Kashmiri women, I wonder what that tells us in terms of the gender dynamics in Kashmir's struggle. I don't know what has already been addressed in the film, because women seem to be active and have agency in this resistance, but I'm assuming, first and foremost, as by association with the dissidents, as mothers, wives, daughters, and sisters. And as we see in the case of Bat's mother, and how we see a dead body and its mortal remains and an empty grave becoming the embodiment and site of contested politics, which is poignant because ordinarily politics is about living bodies, and without those bodies there would be no politics. So I wonder if you could tell us how gender dynamics is rendered otherwise in these areas of conflict under dire circumstances, because the urgent question of enforced disappearance of men and struggle against the Indian state seems to have taken precedence over any other issues. I mean, gender issues which would have been or could have been addressed under more stable circumstances.
And one last thing. Okay, give her.
Just a simple question for the jurists, but not only, also for the politicians, the scientists. What is the role of jurisdictional power in Kashmir and in India today? It's really independent and influential power, or it is subdued to political power?
Thank you, and one more gentleman here, right in front.
I have a simple question about what happened to them. First of all, I can understand how they don't actually what are the issues that then Pakistan is not helping them, India is suppressing them, and the agency has paid to deliver the agency that they are working our call. My question to Mr. Rami is that a couple of months before, we similarly House of Commons, representative of the United States, Kashmir issue is now the principal issue of the agenda. So it is very, I think, one of the oldest issues. So, what do you suggest? How to bring this issue up? It is now
Others cannot be denied.
Thank you. Very quickly, to that point. So we want to start.
I think let me end on a positive note. It took 359 years, the Vatican, the Church, to apologize to Galileo that Church was wrong. 359 years. So Barca was hanged in 94. 84. So we must conserve our faith. If Church can apologize and say sorry to dead Galileo after 359 years, they did it in 2000. Took 359 years a religious body to accept that they were wrong. So I think we need to persevere and build pressure like Talat has done. People like Adalat, me, Professor Zafar Khan, Malik Saab, Malik here, and others, and also those who knew Barca very closely, because many things, if you tell United Nations that they hanged the person who edited a newspaper at that point, he was an editor of a newspaper, so we should have gone to Journalists Without Borders. We should have also involved them, that here is a journalist, forget about his Kashmir. As his son very rightly said, the highest qualified person in journalism at that point. So you should reach out to journalists around the world that India had a journalist, a writer. If you can raise hue and cry for Rushdie, I think Mahmoud edited, I think the Mashrik from the shop, from the Holocaust. So he is also a writer, a leading visionary. So I think I should stick to this thing that after 359 years, Church said sorry to Galileo that you were right, you were wrong. I think we need to work harder and harder so that Pakistan says yes, we are wrong, Kashmir is right. The lady said something what diaspora should do. I think they should do what America did for Jews in Russia. I will simply give you a hint. Spillover effect is a law. They said that you are throwing Jews out from Russia and they are coming into America. It is disturbing our social fabric. So we have been thrown out from India and Pakistan. Thrown out in the sense that virtually we have 5 generations of refugees living outside. So I think we have a very strong case.
I just want to add to that's the tool, documentary tool to read the new generation. So that's just one that, and I think through the documentary, Kashmiri or its ideology and conflict and everything, I think that can we reach out the young generation in
fact, what I'm not here a speaker, but in terms of enforced disappearance of women in Kashmir, I mean, I also asked one, I'm not aware of it, and he said he's not aware of it. And so, in gender dynamics of post resistance, and are women largely seen as victims or only as mothers and sisters and daughters? I mean, that's something that would require another seminar and we should be doing. Hopefully, we'll do that. But so, it's not sidetracked, but we'll ignore that question for the time being because we could speak on that for a long time. In terms of, you raised a very important question, which is how do you deal with Kashmir issue in UK context where many Kashmiri diaspora doesn't even recognize itself as Kashmir, when they may recognize themselves as something else. And that is a challenge that I know some of the schools have been trying very hard to campaign for Kashmir faces that a lot of Kashmiris don't see themselves as Kashmir, they see themselves as British or Pakistani, something else. So that is a big challenge. And I do think that, and maybe you have to try to respond, but I do feel that I belong to your generation. I'm sure you have done a lot to raise awareness, but where I feel that your generation has not been very successful is in transmitting that notion of Kashmiri identity to the next one. Because when I meet many young Kashmiris, I feel that the always that they have to rediscover Kashmir on their own. But I think the last that's why it's the last one. In terms of the UN part, I don't think for us that UN is over, let's ignore it. But what he meant and what the sense for many young people in Kashmir and others is that UN is one of them, but let's not wait for UN to liberate us. Let us think imaginatively and creatively how to get self-determination. Whether that self-determination is India or Pakistan, this is what UN is, by the way. UN is very clear. UN plebiscite was about India and Pakistan, not independence option. And many Kashmiris when you read them, now you really talk of independence, including hopefully most of you. But on that note, I mean, going back to the movie and speaking, the message I would take from this is that there are human tragedies that are going on. That's not individual human tragedy, but it's a collective tragedy. And it is tragedy not only of Kashmir, but to learn of Indians, I mean, Indians or Pakistanis or others who brutalize in this manner should be ashamed of themselves if they are very conscious. So I think it's the vital issue of humanity without equal fact that there's also a question of independence and freedom. But I do think that this movie is very effective in conveying certain messages to us, and for that